Well, well, well. Would you look at that? Juice Pro Wrestling has merch. Support the show by going to prowrestlingtees.com/JPWtees and get yourself a shirt. Enjoy the show.
You so freaking bad. Wrestle me.
Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling, episode 173, Blood and Guts. Blood and Guts. Hey, motherfuckers, it's the Halloween season. It's October. It's our favorite time of year collectively. At least I'd like to think so. If anybody argues, I'll prove them wrong. Anyways, we love horror movies. We love Halloween. We love everything about it. I fucking live it 24/7, 365. So it really pleases me to bring to you boils and ghouls, if you will, a very special guest tonight. They got a movie out right now, which you guys we're going to get into that, where you can find that and the details of all this good shit going on in this flick. It's an awesome fucking flick. Rutten just finished it today, and he was fucking juicing at the lips about it. So without further ado, everybody in the JP Woo, please welcome Chris, Margetis, and Mike Carey. They are the Manson brothers.
Oh my God!
Chris and Mike, how the fuck are you guys doing?
We are
great to be here, man. I don't think we've had an intro like that before. And
man, that was awesome.
Podcast. That was
thank you.
That was fantastic. So thank you.
It was okay.
I'm ready to go. Now I have to kick the shit out of somebody.
It was fine. I've heard better.
Oh.
Okay.
So we got the B grade one. Is that what it is? We got the B grade intro, and we don't know it. Is that the situation?
I'm a little under the weather. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't treat you. I'll treat you guys right.
Everybody's always putting the screws to the Manson.
That's right.
Always.
That's right. Thank you guys so much for having us on, man. This is awesome. Love it.
Yeah, no problem, brothers. Mike, and before we got on air here, for everybody watching on YouTube right now across the motherfucking planet, dude, you got a killer set of old school vintage horror movie posters behind you, man.
Oh yeah, man. I got House on Haunted Hill, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, The Thing from Another World, and It Came from Outer Space. It's Halloween time, man. I change them about every week.
How many do you own?
A lot. I just took down Horror Express, Night of Dark Shadows, and what was the other one I had up? Tombs of the Blind Dead. So these are more for the kids.
A lot of John Wayne down there too.
There's a lot of John Wayne here. When it's summertime, that's Western season.
Yeah.
So I put up all my spaghetti Westerns and my John Wayne posters. But it's Halloween time from the end of September to November 2nd, Halloween time.
Perfect.
I like that. Give it a little extra time.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, so you guys got this fucking new flick out, man. Mutual friends of ours, John Richmond, aka Eli the Eliminator.
Oh yeah.
I saw a trailer for this movie, right? And John hits me up and he's like, "Hey, my buddy Mike's putting out a flick. Check it out. You know, it's like zombies and wrestling, it's horror shit." And I'm like, "Dude, no fucking way. Like, this is your buddy. We got to get in contact." I was like, "Hey man, hit him up." And I was like, "You know what? I'm not going to wait on John. No disrespect, but I'm just going to fucking go on social media."
You may be waiting a long time for that one.
Yeah, right. I'm still, dude. John let us borrow some DVDs when we cut an episode with him almost 2 years ago. Now we still got him. I still haven't been able to meet up with him to give them to him, and he lives in the city next to me, man.
Yeah, he's out there. He's a happy retired guy now, working. You know, he's a Shriner and he does a lot of charity work and he's a good man. Back in the day, he was a holy terror. I'll tell you what. He'd probably say the same of me, but he was a lot worse than me.
Well, we're going to get into some of that old school pro wrestling stuff because we fucking love all that here. But real quick, you and Chris, or not real quick, just fucking spew forth where the idea came from. Obviously, you guys big horror fans and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
For the fucking flick, man.
Well,
Chris.
Yeah, Mike and I. It's a really long story. Mike was one of the first guys I ever met when I started wrestling at Windy City, and we kind of had this mutual thing that clicked right away. If you guys want the super long unabridged version, this is like one of the crazier stories ever.
Get your knapsacks out.
Yeah, we meet up. Mike was leaving Windy City, or just leaving wrestling period, to start on the fire department. And so he had suggested to his guys that they take me on as part of the Brotherhood, which I don't know if you guys were Windy City guys back then. But so I kind of moved into the Brotherhood when Mike moved out. We were never actually partners, but we were both Stone and Skull Manson in Windy City Wrestling and a few other places.
He took my place when I left, so he became the other Manson brother then. Yeah,
so fast forward from there, I don't know, it was like 10 years.
Yeah.
More. I had done a low budget horror flick in Chicago when I was still living in Chicago. And actually, no, I was living out here, but I went back to Chicago for it. So anyway, Mike calls me out of the blue. I hadn't talked to him in a while. And he's like, dude, I'm watching this Frankenstein movie, and the guy in it looks exactly like you. I swear to God. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. So
I hadn't seen him in a long time. So last time I saw him, he was heavier and he had longer hair. So I'm like, fucking guy looks like Margetis, man. I'm telling my buddy I'm watching with, he was the projectionist at the theater where they left the DVD. So he stole it and brought it to my house. And I'm telling him, like, I know this guy. And he goes, oh yeah, Mike, you know everybody. I'm like, well, I do, but that's, that's how that happened.
So then Mike got on a series on NBC with a guy named Max Martini, who's the director of our film. Mike came out to visit him. We kind of stayed in contact with that. Mike came out to visit him, and well, the really funny part is we all had a few drinks at this place in LA, and when Mike was leaving to go back to his hotel room for an early flight the next day, he looks over at me and says, should we lock up for old time's sake?
And
we're outside.
Collar and elbow tie up, brother.
Yeah. We wanted to freak out Martini too.
We did, yeah. We wanted to freak out Max. So we're outside this place called the Sportsman's Lounge up in Studio City, which has got a big pool scene, right? And there's tons of people there. And boom, we lock up. Well, then we took it from there. We go into the headlock. We're doing the whole thing, and we get done, and I look over, and there's Max, like, whoa, and all these other people. So the following morning, Mike's flight gets canceled, and he calls me, and he's like, dude, we got to do something. Max was freaking out about that thing. We got to write something. We got to come up with something. So, Mike will tell it slightly different only because I'm a pure capitalist and I like to make money as much as possible. So the first thing that came to my mind was, it's got to be zombies or it's got to be horror, and let's use wrestling. Because the Venn diagram of fandom is so massive that
that's maybe, pretty accurate.
Maybe we'll have an audience, right?
Yeah.
So we went to work from there, and it was a long road. We wrote the script. We just hoped somebody would give us anything to make this movie, and we got really lucky. And Max Martini, who's an industry veteran, forever, and has worked with every director in the world. He liked it, and something came about that we had an opportunity to make it, and off we went we had 3 weeks to write it, from being set in Chicago to being set in New Mexico, which was very interesting, because you work 5 years on something and all of a sudden you got to completely change it.
They're like, can you do it? We're like, yeah, we can do it. Hang up the phone. We're like, well, fucking we can do this.
How the fuck we're going to do this, right? So we went to New Mexico and shot it in 3 weeks, basically.
We were out there for a couple of months. It took about 3 weeks to shoot it, but we had about 4 or 5 weeks of pre-production where literally like the week before we shot the movie, one more time, he and I had to rewrite the entire thing because we had a concept. So you've seen the movie, right? So in the original draft of the movie, he and I never show our faces. We're masked the entire time in the movie. So it was a gimmick. But when we were rehearsing and we were doing the comedy bits, they were working great and we were laughing. Once we put the masks on, it took the air out of the comedy. So Max was like, You can't wear them. And me and him are like, fuck. So there we go. We open up the computer.
Rewrite.
We just start rewriting the whole thing again.
Man.
And yeah, so it was, and we were rewriting like on a daily basis, like, you know, because for location reasons and budgetary reasons, and we would find out, you know, he and I would be at the last minute, like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense now because we changed this and we have to go back. So it was really an interesting learning process and an ongoing up to the last day. We were rewriting scenes and things like that. But fortunately, that happens to, we're very flexible. So we're never locked into anything.
Fucking wrestlers, right?
Yeah, right.
Flexing all over these motherfuckers.
Right? I mean, I was in the Marine Corps, and that's the one thing they hammer into you is you got to be able to improvise. In the fire department and wrestling, it's all improvisation. My background's in improvisational comedy. So we were really, when they were like, hey, we can't do this. And he and I are like, but we could do this. And we would write it out. So that was one of the great things that, and one of the reasons we like working together so much is we have a really good synergistic relationship. So it works out really well. And we just never let anything stop us. We're like, all right, we can't do that. All right, we'll do something different. We'll just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what happens, you know.
To your point, Justin, I think I know, again, Mike, you know, mentions the Marines and the fire department, but a lot of that comes from wrestling. I mean, you have to,
the majority of it comes from wrestling.
So much. And especially with your ideas, you know, that's the thing, is like sometimes you're changing ideas while you're in there.
Right. Listening to the crowd and shit.
Yeah. And I think that's what made us, you know, more adaptable in being able to be flexible with the story, because, you know, as a writer, you never see the beginning product at the end. You know, it's just not part of it. And that's a billion different reasons. It's not always the story. It's,
you can't be married to it where you're like, no, we're not changing this.
Yeah,
You're not going to get your shit done that way.
Our producer walked into my office at 5:30 on a Friday one day and said, oh, hey, we're over budget. We got to lose 27 pages by Monday.
Huh?
It's like 27 pages,
Jesus.
you know.
How are we going to do that and still have the thing be coherent?
Yeah. Easy there, Vinnie Mac.
Every time you make one change, you got to go back and make sure that one change doesn't, you know, pardon my French, fuck up 10 other things. So, you know, imagine 27 pages worth of changes that you then have to, you know, it's brutal.
Well, if I could,
Brutal.
if I could give my first compliment as far as the writing goes, the way that you guys did write it, every single character in the movie, and it will quickly be revealed that I fucking loved this movie, man. I'm serious, dude. I've been watching some fucking shit, and this was really nice.
The stuff.
But thank you so much. I can't tell you how much that means.
The way that it was written was every single character in the fucking movie has this is like, so there's some characters that don't have a lot of screen time, but when they do, in that scene, they shine. In that scene, in each individual person. So, I mean, it sucks that you guys had to revise, but to be able to like, all right, in this scene, this person does this stuff, but if you take it out, everything is still coherent because you could tell everybody's personality because of those, like the first half of the movie, you really kind of flesh out everybody.
It's all
in a super, but in a super quick space of time, because everybody's so goddamn funny in their own way. Like I was gonna take notes and shit, and I wrote like a full page of notes, and I was like, fuck this, I can't, this is too much. I'm not gonna ask these people everything. Because there were all these awesome one-liners.
Friends of Rizat.
That I intend to like. Now I can't remember. Mike O'Hearn had one too.
Back on, and you can do the Q&A.
Oh, he was gushing about Mike O'Hearn. He's like, no way, dude. I love his fucking quads and his biceps.
I was gushing about what's his name, Adrian.
Azar?
Yeah, I was like, holy
awesome.
shit, that's the dude from Heroes. And then he's awesome in it. Like everybody's got their comedic. Then with the mask stuff, that edit was great because it added to the mythology. Like here's how Superman got his cape.
Some people are like, oh, what do the masks do? Well, what do they do? We're asking.
That's what we're trying to, to thank you very much, by the way, for the compliment. I do have to say, I mean, it was definitely an intention of Mike and I when we wrote it to make sure that all these characters really popped. And a lot of them are based off of guys that we worked with back in the day in wrestling. So loosely in some spaces, but not so much in others. But it's really a testament to the actors, man, who portrayed those things, because those guys, and this goes back to Max Martini, and it's not just DB Sweeney and Adrian Pasdar and guys that you know, it's the guys that he knew who nobody knows, who are such awesome actors. Now, I'll use Jay Lund as my perfect example, who's Captain Marvelous, who I'm sure you remember because he's like Elvis and Evel Knievel meshed up into one. But it's literally every guy who took on those roles. Dave Meadows, who plays Carson. Scott Pete, who plays the hillbilly in the beginning of the movie. I mean, I could go on and on and on about how great these guys were, and that's really, well, of course, Randy, yeah. But I mean, like, that's the heart of the film, is the guys who took those parts on, however big or small they were, and brought them to life, and they
played them to the hill. We always thought, so the kick for me as a writer, characters are king, just like wrestling, right? Character is king. Character is king, and so. We wanted it to be where, we wanted it to be where it wouldn't matter what these characters, what situation they were put in, that it would be interesting to watch them interact, right? So it wouldn't matter if it was a zombie crisis or just a regular night at a wrestling show where a rat runs through the audience or something like that. But it would be interesting, and we wanted the audience to care about the characters, because if they're invested in the characters, then the whole rest of the thing works. Like the relationship between Skull, my character, and my girlfriend, right? You give a shit about that. So when, whatever happens to her, you care. You care about Captain Marvelous. And even though Carson is an asshole, you like him just a little bit, right? You like him. You want him to be good. There's a part where you think, oh, he's going to really turn into a good guy, and that's the whole thing. So we wanted it so that the characters could just do anything. The zombies were sort of ancillary to what the brothers were doing. That was the whole thing. We wanted it to be about the brothers, about the Manson brothers, and it wouldn't matter if it was zombies or a vampire attack or aliens or whatever it was, that it would still be interesting to watch these guys deal with it, because they're dealing with it the way they would deal with anything else. Oh fuck, we got to do this now, kind of, and they're going to bitch about it the whole way, so that thank you for saying that, because that was the point. And it kind
of gives me with the Gecko brothers in From Dusk Till Dawn, and kind of guys kind of give me those vibes, just like the setting and everything, the way it's done. I mean, obviously, different scenarios
but
and stuff.
When we were writing it, he was like, this is sort of reminiscent of Dusk Till Dawn, the way we structured it, because the first half of the movie, it's a different film, right? And then all of a sudden the zombies show up, and some people were like, really loved it, and other people were like, we would have liked to see more zombie action. But the truth of the matter is, we structured it like that. There's plenty going on in this movie where you don't have to have zombies from the get-go. Then it's just a bunch of killing, and who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
It's not a coincidence. One of my favorite movies of all time is From Dusk Till Dawn. So we purposely took some time to build up the characters in a sense.
Come on, Sex Machine.
Yeah. There you go. Yes, indeed.
That's one of my. I'm not going to give a spoiler, but I'm gonna
knock it off.
That what's Mike O'Hearn's Mr. Sparkles? Is that what his
Radiant Bobby?
Oh yeah, he's like go take care of him because I'm gonna radiate him, and I just love that little line, because you see in the background. You guys did a lot of background work too, where like you guys you do dialogue and you keep the story going and you got the funny shit, and then there's something silly happening in the background.
Yeah.
So if you watch it over and over again,
I love that.
Because while they're fighting about what's about to happen and zombies attacking, like Mike's in the back, like double.
Yeah, he's in the back doing his
like flexing his ass cheeks or something. I don't even remember. Yeah.
That's a perfect example of something we did on the fly, where he was standing there and we were like, we gotta say something. So I said, Mike, what next time when we do this, Chris is gonna turn to you and say, go take care of the fans, and then just say, I'll radiate them, and then flex your muscles or something. And he's so great. Like, did it. It was perfect. And it was
a fucking t-shirt, brother.
Yeah, that was the only take we did of that particular line, and it was great.
In the original script, and I'm still to this day upset that we didn't get to do this. We have a scene where he and I are standing in a balcony and we're bitching at each other back and forth. And in the way, way, way background, I mean, you can barely see it, there's zombies just ripping the shit out of this guy in the ring.
Yeah.
And we couldn't
do it budgetarily.
Oh my God, it would have been so, but that, I mean, to your point, and not to sound like, oh yeah, we meant to do that, but we wanted things to be constantly happening because the whole idea is that these two idiots cannot get out of their own way, right? And so when something sets them off with the two of each other, it doesn't matter what else is happening. There could literally be bombs going off around them, and they're going to concentrate on one guy calling the other guy an idiot, and the other guy
who
trying to
ate
figure
whose
out-
fries.
Right. Yeah. And so, that's our director calls it. What does he call it? Buffoonery? Is that his comment all the time? It's just going for the
if you
buffoonery.
have a sibling, if you have a brother or you have a sister or whatever, you have even though you may get along great, there's always an adversarial relationship there, especially if one brother thinks he's really smart and the other brother is a legit moron,
The infancy of this project was really much more, I don't want to say much more horrifying and much more violence and much more stuff like that, but we kept getting feedback from people who would read it and be like, oh my God, I laughed my ass off. Now, we planned on it being like locker room conversational humor, not, set up jokes or anything like that. But we just kept getting. It was like, oh my God, man, I laughed the whole way through. And
so me and him were like, ding.
We might as well just lean into it,
Pull the pin on that
again, yeah, and Max was really influential in that too, because he saw it as, comedic. But I think one of the cool things that he really did and that got brought to it was, when the pedal goes to the metal with the action, then it gets serious, and it's not a parody at that point or anything like that.
No, we didn't make fun of the zombies. We didn't. Cheesy and
they're ripping the shit out of people, and
we could be silly, but they had to be funny, and we wanted to play it straight too. We're not trying to be the Three Stooges or what. Even though the Three Stooges are obviously a huge influence on us, as are the Marx Brothers and whatever, but we wanted to play it straight. So if I'm being stupid and he's being a wise ass, we wanted that to be sincere, and otherwise
Mike makes it really easy for me to be a wise ass to him all the time. So.
That's true.
Are you guys playing the roles right now?
We are the role. I mean, the truth of the matter is, in our business relationship, he has to handle the business end of things because I can't fucking spell my own name correctly. Really, I'm like, all right,
that's not true, but there's some bugs.
It's close to true, but that's the way they're just much like wrestling characters. They're just an augment of what you really are, and those are really the best characters, So
I am glad that you guys played the action scenes and the zombie stuff, like the first person to get fully infected, that transformation when there was like you guys gave a little more time to it, and like it's like no joke, and then that whole scene is if something's comedic. And then you cut to some sort of action, and it's like campy, like kind of Jerry Lewis-y type of shit, which a lot of people love. But it takes away when you add action to that, it completely takes away from it, and then you don't even want to see any more action. You're like, well, I either don't want to see the comedy or I don't want to see the action. Like pick a side. But when when it's time for the action, it's on. That's why there's other scenes where it leaves you also wanting more. Because of how the action was filmed. So when you're like, oh shit, it's going down. When the next thing happens, I know they're not going to be like, they're not going to suddenly their eyes are going to get big and they're going to stick their tongue out. They're not doing that shit. They're going to grind their teeth and get to work. It's,
exactly. That's the way. That was by design. So we wanted the funny parts to be funny and the action parts to be thrilling and the zombie parts to be bloody as we could make them on the budget we had, which was our biggest obstacle, was our budget, and I've had feedback from people, I would have liked to see more of this, and I've been like, so would we, but we didn't have the money. So,
toss us some money, motherfuckers.
How would you do it? I'm always like, in the feature, how would you do it?
Outside of just actually making the film, the thing that I think I'm most proud of in the whole thing is the fact that it came off like that, where funny was funny, bloody was bloody. When the blood and guts came, we didn't cut away. We didn't shy away from it. The effects guys were awesome. I mean, they just did it's funny because we never saw any of that stuff. When they're doing those things. So I was just like you the first time I saw the movie. I hadn't seen any of the FX at all. So I was really like, wow, man.
So if you haven't seen the movie, there's a scene in the beginning where me and another guy are in the ring wrestling, and I hurt him really badly. And that was actually supposed to be something different, but it didn't work on camera. So at the last minute, I'm like, well, does this work this way? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, let's shoot it. So I do this. And it worked perfectly. So I don't want to give it away because I think it's a cool little shot. But that's an example of work making do with what you have. There's not one time where you're like, damn it, we can't do this, so the whole thing is fucked. No, you got to make do with what you have, and you take that and you make it the best that you can, right? Because nobody knows it was supposed to be something else. Just like when you're in the middle of a match and you miss a spot, right? You only know that you missed the spot. Nobody else knows.
Well, Botchamania will find out, but yes.
Yeah, right.
Call Matthew.
And give you the FU chant the whole time.
Yeah.
You fucked up. You fucked
You
up.
fucked up.
You see
right.
dub crowd.
Well, me being the dipshit watcher,
here we
that
go.
scene actually
You
was.
dipshit, I might add.
Thank you,
You're a
guys.
fucking idiot.
That scene actually, that's how we found out more about your character, because it seems like you did that same thing a couple more times later when it's like it's time to do other stuff, when it's time to do business and work and injure and do actually make violence. Then
that was the whole thing.
Goes to zero.
He's got a switch in the back of his head, and once that switch is flipped, then he does what he does best. He's kind of an idiot savant, and then and then he goes back to being a dipshit. So he doesn't really even know what he's doing. He does it, and he's like,
Mike's character is our version of the Hulk. It's like when you unleash the Hulk,
There you go.
shit gets real. You don't want to see him come out, and that's how we set it up for the next one.
I can't wait to see this movie. It sounds like it has like a Shaun of the Dead vibe a little bit, but with wrestling.
It's a little bit like it's fun. I hadn't seen Shaun of the Dead, and then one night when I think it was before we went into production, Chris went home for the weekend, so I was up at our house we were renting in Santa Fe with our stunt coordinator, Freddie Joe Farnsworth, who's awesome. He's best in the business, but he's like, he never seen damn Shaun of the Dead. I'm like, no. And he's like, well, fuck, man, sit down. We're going to watch right now. I'm like, all right. We watch it. I was like, and I wasn't for nothing. I just hadn't seen it. I was like, oh man, I get it.
So how did the process go? Like the writing process, you guys, the revision they gave you 3 weeks, but the actual writing of it, how long did the writing of the first draft of the story?
The first draft, I think the first draft, I went home, and usually how our writing process goes is he and I'll discuss the concept and what the main parts are going to be. And I'll go home and put the skeleton together, which is, like a basic first draft. It's pretty loose. And then he and I'll go back through scene by scene, and we'll start building the bits and building the characters and start experimenting with funny bits and horror bits and whatever we're going to do. And it goes from there. And then we'll put it down and we'll leave it alone for a few weeks. And then we'll come back and we'll read it through together. And then we'll be like, maybe that doesn't work. And that's great. And we'll throw that to the wall, or something we thought that was funny before. We're like, that really sucks. And we'll cut that out. So really it's a 50-50 collaborative process. And it takes a good month and a half, sometimes two, depending on how quickly I can get the skeleton out. For this one, for the first one, I think probably the working draft, probably 2 months. And then we kept revising it because it was our first time really doing it. And so the vision of it wasn't realized at the beginning. We had an idea. And so the vision came later when we started to be like, oh, well, it can be this. Oh, and then we added the whole wrestling mask bit into it. And we were like, we talked about that. I'm like, what if we made it just a little bit weirder by adding these wrestling masks that may or may not be magic? And he was like, oh, that's great. Let's see how that works. And da-da-da-da. So it's just sort of, it goes from there. We sort of let the characters tell us how the story's going to go. So the characters come first. And then by the characters interacting as we write them, that leads to the next scene. And Chris is really good at figuring out at angles because he was a booker. So a lot of the direction that it takes is what he comes up with, and I come up with the goofy shit and the characters, and then the rest of it is all collaborative. There's certain stuff that it's us together speaking, and the beauty is always in the middle, right? He's good at some shit and I'm good at some shit, and together we make magic shit. It's like, I'm not that I'm comparing us to Led Zeppelin or the Beatles, but each one of those guys brought a different thing to the band that made them great. And together we make better stuff than we do apart. So that's it.
What about the casting of this flick? Where did you guys come up with the casting? Because you guys got some pretty heavyweights in this movie.
So one of the biggest, that's, again, I'll go back to Max Martini like a million times, but without him, this thing is nothing. No, not dead in the water, but it's you know,
It would have been very different.
Yeah, I'm convinced we would have made it, you know, no matter what, if we had 50 grand or 50 million. But one of the things, I mean, of a million different things that Max was so critical at was the casting thing. I mean, you know, Randy Couture ain't going to work with Mike and I if there's not well, he would now. but before then,
How he knows us.
yeah. But I mean, before we actually knew him and worked with him, he knew Max. They had been on the unit, you know, for a few episodes together and stayed in touch. And so every one of those guys, Adrian Pasdar, DB Sweeney, Mike O'Hearn, Bas Rutten, every one of those guys was a guy
Dave Meadows, Jay Lund, Louis
worked with at some point in time.
Tim Coviello, they all knew Max.
Yeah, and the heavyweight guys, you know, Max was able to go in and say, "Hey, man, I got this thing. Would you read it?" And I think we just got lucky that, like, for Randy, for example, it was just such a departure from anything else that he had ever done that I think he was like, "Oh yeah, you know, I'll totally do this." You know, Bas Rutten is like,
it's fucking awesome,
dude. Like, I can't even describe you. I always tell the story that we're doing rehearsals before we're getting ready to shoot the scene where he gives the monologue, those of you who have seen it, about the parrot. And he got done telling that story, and we broke for a minute, and I looked over at Mike and was like, it's like he's been telling that story for 20 years. Like, I mean,
we were laughing so hard while we were shooting it.
Yeah, it was so, I mean, that, again, the casting, it was cool because with the characters that you don't know who they are as far as the actors go, Max would send us tapes and say, you know, what do you think of these guys? But if there's somebody you really liked, you know, he would tell us, hey, I really like this guy for such and such. So Jay Lund, who played Captain Marvelous, we knew instantaneously when we saw his tape, his online audition, that's the guy, 100%.
Because we had another guy when we were casting in Chicago named Chad Ario, who's a comedian here, and we had worked with him, or I had worked with him on Crisis with Max, and he came in and read for that part when Chris
was great.
God, he was fucking great, and we thought nobody else is going to be able to play this like him. Nobody. And when we saw Jay Lund, we were like,
it was automatic. Shit. And I think like Dave Meadows, we knew we wanted him to do something. And that part of Carson was literally, we were 2 days away from, I can't even tell you the names that were.
How many names we're going
to play that thing?
Part.
Like 20. And there was always a conflict or a schedule, or like one guy said, yeah, I'll do it for the money, and then came back the next day and said, oh no, I got to do it for double. You know, I was like, sorry, we can't do that.
Yeah, we had everybody from Jake Busey to
really?
Melanie,
oh yeah,
Neil McDonough.
Yeah, I mean, like name guys. And we finally got to the end, and Mike and I were like, hey man, you know, this Dave guy totally looks the part. He's a good actor. He was good
because he read it with another girl. He was reading lines. He wasn't auditioning. He was just reading lines with one of the girls who were awesome, by the way, as well. And they knew Max. And Chris and I were like, hey, Max, how about casting Dave Meadows? And Max would be like, no, I got something else in mind for him. And And then finally at the end, we kept telling him. And then finally at the end, he's like, hey, what do you guys think about Dave Meadows for Carson? And me and Chris were like, perfect, Max, great idea.
Brilliant.
He killed it. He was fucking great. He was fucking great.
And it's funny because I saw a couple of the guys that we were auditioning, or actually not even auditioning, like, would you take this part, right? In films after we wrapped shooting the movie, and I remember thinking to myself, thank God we got
Dave.
We got Dave. Because Dave was, I mean, he was so good at it. And honestly, you know, a lot of times, I think one of the other cool things was a lot of times you'll get these guys, it's a lot like wrestling when you bring in Greg the Hammer Valentine to sell a show, right? Well, he's not bumping for anybody. And yeah, he's going to put butts in the seats. Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of times name guys will do that too in a low budget film. They're just there for the money, and they dash in, they dash out. Every one of these guys, man, like DB Sweeney showed up with his own suit and a toupee. You know, like that wasn't even part of it.
Looking like Joe Bob Briggs and shit.
Oh, Sweeney fucking, he invented that. He sat down with us and said, I got some ideas. And of course, he and I were like, what are they? Because you're Sweeney, man. He was the only guy I knew prior to this movie happening, other than Max, because DB and I did a Spike Lee movie together, and I introduced myself to him, and he knew Max, and that was our thing. So we kind of were familiar with each other. We've become great friends since then. But when Max asked him to do it, he was like, yeah, I'll do it, but I have some ideas. Is that okay? And we were like, yeah. And he sat down and fleshed out all these ideas, and me and him were like, Yeah, fuck yeah.
Well,
He shows up with
Fuck you, DB.
the really cool thing about it was these guys like Pazdar's part, Adrian Pazdar's part, and DB's part were like 5-line parts.
Yeah, they were not
when we first wrote the film. So these guys came in not only with their own characters developed, like Adrian came in with the crazy hair and it looked like he hadn't slept in a month. You know, I mean, that was like shit, dude. Yeah, he got into it and just, you know, I got an idea. I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to have a nitrous tank with me the whole time. Okay. You know, it was.
Well, in fairness, that was our idea.
I don't remember. I must have taken a chair shot the night before because I don't remember.
Yeah, no, that was our. I said, what if
that was the Nas.
We said, what if he has a nitrous? What if he's huffing nitrous the whole time? When we were sitting around, when we came up with the beat off line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when we came up with the beat off line, we're like, he's like, we got to give Adrian Pazder something to do. And I'm like, oh, but then he came in and he had all these other ideas. He showed up with the jacket and everything else.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I mean, it was these guys just they took the roles,
elevated this movie
with them, man. And again,
higher than it was.
To me, the thing that separates this movie from other, you know, films in, if you can
in its
call it a genre film, whatever, is, you know, we got some top quality performance guys on the thing. And to me, and I'm not including Mike and I, because I was the least experienced person by far. But the rising tide raises all the boats. And I think those guys just, you know, they added so much to it. And, you know, to me, again, that's the thing that kind of distances it from other stuff.
And so much fun. No prima donnas.
Yeah.
We have, you know, the girls. We asked those girls to do things that like normal actresses would have been like, we're not fucking doing that. And they did everything we asked for with enthusiasm. And they were just awesome. They were so good. And we don't talk enough about them.
Yeah, we don't. And to both of their credits, like Karen Corona, who plays my girlfriend in the film, I'm in the middle of banging around her stunt double, right, during the fight scene, if you recall that part. And she's like, hey, I want to get in there and do that myself.
Yeah, and she did.
I hate to say this, all credit to the stunt gal. Karen was better. I mean, she went all out on it. And by the way, again, to Mike talking about Freddie Joe, all of our stunt guys, man, were like, unbelievable, dude. These guys, they earned every
Elgin
dime.
Hernandez.
Yeah. All those
Robert Garcia.
Matt Christmas. I mean, all those guys, they're all, you know, pros. They earn every dime. They make a lot of money. That's why we had to have small fight scenes, because those guys all get paid a ton.
They didn't get paid shit on our movie, though.
Yeah.
They got
That's not true. Trust me. I looked at the books. He didn't. They got paid a lot more than I did.
Hey, man, next time you want to throw a motherfucker around.
Everybody got paid more than we did. That is true.
Yeah,
I'll do
that's
it for
the other
$5.
thing. And that's the God's honest truth. Every single person on that shoot made more money than us.
And we did it happily. We were happy to not take any money.
Yeah.
That was fine.
Well, it's great. And what's it like for you guys to sit back and I know you guys, you know, through following you on social media, have been able to, you know, premiere this. You guys, if I'm not mistaken, have done like some theater and drive-in premieres for your movie. What's that like for you guys being able to do that? Especially like being horror fans, you know,
depends how much fruit they throw at us.
It's you know, I think that's you hit the nail on the head. With the cool part is that you get to be out there as a fan, you know, because I mean, at the end of the day, we're like everybody that we talk to. We're fans of the genre, you know. I mean, The Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time. You know, my wife and I spend all of October watching, you know, horror films. Mike just sent me the entire catalog of Tales from the Dark Side.
Yes, so I love it.
Deep. I'm watching VHS tonight, right? Like the new one.
You're not allowed to watch.
Oh, 1990 was it 94?
94, yeah. So, you know, for us as fans, it's super cool. And then to get to talk to, you know, people who like it and then actually at least act like they like your movie.
I like it. Spooky.
Yeah, that's the best part, man. You can't beat it. And we've been so fortunate. We did Flashback Weekend back at the end of July in Rosemont. And then we did, you know, their extension, which is a drive-in in Dixon, Illinois, Dixon and Sterling, which we did.
You just said Dixon, Illinois.
That's
right. Dixon, Illinois.
Well, wait, except there's one in Hobart, right? Or a couple in Indiana and Florida.
I know there's one in Florida. I mean, I know there's one in Hobart.
Yeah. but that was so cool. I mean, to see your film on a drive-in is like totally badass. 50
And then
feet
and the
up.
screen was like 50 feet high, man.
Yeah.
And it was clear as a bell, and it had the best sound system. I've never heard it so clear.
Oh.
And the thing about, I hate watching myself on screen, so I'm always like this. And I'm telling him, we're dead in the water, man. Nobody's fucking laughing. He's like, you're fucking crazy. And then they asked us so we were the first of 4 movies. It was us, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Bloodsucking Freaks. So we're up to 3 serious horror films, right? And we thought,
Ralph
this is never going to play. The place was packed. They had 300 cars there. And they're like, will you go up in between the movies and sign stuff and glad hand? And we're like, absolutely. But I'm thinking, fuck, man, we're going to get up there and they're going to throw shit at us. But the lights came up. Man, people were beeping their horns and cheering. We had a line of people before we even got up there. They had to hold the second movie over. And finally, they had to cut the line because they couldn't hold it anymore. And we were like, fuck, man. And all these people were going on Instagram, contacting us, saying how much they loved it. And we were like, oh, man, that's great. So the reception that we've had has been overwhelmingly positive. We've had some people that haven't liked it, but guess what? Not everybody's going to. But the majority of people have really liked it, and that's been awesome for us. It's great because we got the sequel. It's coming. So,
really?
Oh yeah.
So am I that you just announced it. Now I'm coming. God damn, you're good.
It's gonna be even crazier.
Oh yeah. I love that, man. That's kudos to you guys. You know, we have similar aspirations and dreams to do something like that. And you know, being horror fans, it's just I have mad respect for you guys. Especially being some wrestling cats, you know, because I've always said that you look at the top movie star in the world right now was what?
The Rock.
A pro wrestler.
Yeah.
You know, like John Cena, albeit I'm not a huge fan of his fucking in-ring shit. That career was shoved down my motherfucking throat, and I was like gagging along the way.
5 moves from hell.
Yeah.
Not a bad actor, though.
No, Peacemaker.
The best of the best is Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dude. The
Batista's awesome.
Tom Poe again. He was Tom Poe in it.
Great.
Dave's the best. I mean, I think out of the 3 guys, he's the best actor of the 3 of them.
Yeah, dude. He draws tears from my sockets.
Listen, it's not a coincidence, okay, that The Rock is the biggest movie star in Hollywood because, you know, obviously he resonated with wrestling audiences like nobody's business.
Charisma.
And when you take that and add that to something that people routinely watch, I don't think it's a mistake. You know, I think he's got a thing. Cena's got a thing. All those guys, you know, they all have a thing, and I think part of it too. We were talking about it earlier. You know, I think it was Diamond Dallas Page who famously said, you know, you take your personality and you turn it up to 11, and that's your, you know, that's what gets over with people is. If they think
Spinal Tap, crank it up to 11.
Yeah, exactly.
If they think you're 1% not true with them, you're gonna fall on your face.
You're dead,
right?
You're dead.
But if you give them even if it's augmented or whatever you want to call it, I think that's what people really like to see, especially nowadays. They want a little bit of a look behind the curtain. But I don't think it's a, you know. I think there's a reason those guys are some of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood right now. And I think it's a wrestling background, man. I mean, you saw that they had it there. It's only natural that it was, you know,
wrestling is true. It's performance art, man. It's theater to a certain extent, you know, hardcore theater.
It's theater of the bizarre. And
yes.
If you don't think it's theater, then you're in the wrong business. If you're a professional wrestler, if you don't think that that it's theater, then you shouldn't be getting into the ring. Maybe in the early 20s, in the 50s, maybe it had something to do with, you know, wrestling and athletics and all that. But as of the 70s and all that,
George Hackenschmidt.
Yeah, if you're right, George Hackenschmidt and Strangler Lewis and those guys, guys who were legit dudes. Chicago. That time's long gone.
But I mean, when you think about it, the commonalities between wrestling and horror films, especially, or action movies for that matter, they're so tight.
Yeah,
that,
dude.
You know, they just cross over for each other. One of them's live. You know, one of them you're telling the story directly in front of people, which to me is probably the most difficult of all of them. But you know, I mean, horror. There's a main heel and everything, right? And it's everybody's job to try to stop him from doing whatever he's going to do. That's the world that we watch and that we love, and there's a reason why.
There was Goldberg and then the NWO.
And just like when they started crossing over rock and roll music with wrestling, although I would argue with them what the Rock was, but
yeah.
But it is. It's a natural.
Certainly one fucking Cyndi Lauper.
It's a natural blend, and the reason that they haven't had very many professional wrestling movies over the years because the fucking guys can't act. Including us.
Hey, Roddy Piper though, man. They live. Come on, man.
I did a movie with Roddy
Hell
Piper.
Comes to Frogtown.
It was really good. Yeah, no, he was good.
I just watched the first 20 minutes of Hell Comes to Frogtown about a month ago.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. Hey,
but it's Piper, Roddy, dude, and it's good.
Roddy Piper still to this day plays one of the most iconic characters in the history of, let's call it horror, but like Carpenter movies. I mean, that's I saw that movie 4 days in a row when it came out. And I did every day for 4 days.
That gratuitous fight scene.
Oh yes, dude! I timed it. It's like 5 minutes and 20 seconds or something like that.
Best fight scene
to sit through, man.
I would have to agree with Mike on that one. I wasn't a fan of the length of the fight scene. I thought part of it was good.
It needed a good 3-minute trim.
The clothesline he throws on the cop though is one of the best.
That was great.
Oh yeah.
No, there were elements of it that were good. They just needed. I don't know who was sitting in the editing room, not cutting.
I just love that movie. I love that movie. Period.
So, dude, the soundtrack's fucking great too.
Yeah.
Any Carpenter movie has the best soundtrack.
Oh
best
yeah.
Scores. You know, they're
great, dude. Great horror scores to me, and I love horror scores. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a guy where I think if you take like a rock band, right? No matter what genre, what era, whatever, if you want to fucking even go back to the remake of House of Wax, which I actually thought was pretty brutal and pretty good, you know. They're throwing in bands like fucking Deftones or whatever. There's some bands that are modern bands that can set the mood, but I'm a huge fan of original scores. If you go back to like Reanimator and like you're talking.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll listen to that shit. I search for it on fucking vinyl. Dude, I fucking love it. I download it, you know, digitally, and I'll listen to that shit. Much like I did back in the day when I was like in jazz band and stuff. Like I love like the instrumental stuff and just the atmosphere, especially because it's associated with this visual of something that you know you love. You've seen it. It brings about like this picture of what, you know, whatever it pertains to, subject matter.
Reanimator is a classic in every single
Stuart
way.
Gordon rests his soul. I love Stuart Gordon as a director, man.
God bless him. He was
one of my favorites of all time.
Great, man.
You know, Carpenter out here in LA, every year on Halloween until right before COVID, would do a concert where he would just play the scores
too in Chicago
from his films.
Nice.
And it was awesome. Cool, you know, Escape from New York, that's like the best movie score. That is my favorite ever.
Killer movie score.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's so good.
It's, you know, it's cool to have a song in there. If it's a good song, maybe they played at the beginning or played at the end or something like that. But it's atmospheric music that creates the picture in your head, right? You know,
I think like
a great movie with Kevin Bacon about independent filmmaking, and it's called The Big Picture. And a really quick story. So Kevin Bacon plays this guy he's in UCLA Film School, and he wins this. Three filmmakers win this award that they're going to get financed by a studio to make their movie. So every step he wants to make this little movie, and they're trying to make it so big. And they're like, well, what kind of music do you want in it? And he was like, yeah, I was thinking not having any music at all. And they're like, no music at all. We got to have some. And he goes, okay, maybe just a little. They're like, yeah, just like 15 or 20 good solid pop hits. And he's like, yeah, I love it. It's typical Hollywood, man. They could screw up a wet dream.
Yeah.
I think one of the best soundtracks though, and some people lump The Crow into horror, which I don't really see it as horror.
I don't see that.
I mean, I guess it has
a commercial
some visuals. You know, it's got gothic visuals, but I wouldn't call it a horror.
I wouldn't call it horror either. It's a comic flick, dude.
I like The Crow, but I would not call it a horror movie.
One of the best soundtracks though. If we're talking about like stuff that has actual bands, you know, doing the stuff like.
I agree. I love that. Even to this day, I like that.
And Stone Temple Pilots on that soundtrack track, right? Right when they were
Stone Temple Pilots,
9 Inch Nails,
Joy Division,
doing Joy Division, covering Dead Souls. I mean,
it's a great soundtrack, man.
Score was really good too. Who did the music? So there's one piece. It's obviously not. I mean, it's a classical piece, but who did that little piece that you guys play a few times, like the hype piece, almost like the entrance music.
That's a great story. If you guys are you probably not familiar with country music, are you at all?
Unfortunately, some of it I can't talk about.
The guy who plays Chip Abernathy, who's the real asshole at the ticket thing, that's Jay DeMarcus from the band Rascal Flatts.
Really?
No way.
Yes.
Shows us what we know.
Another Max Martini buddy who wanted to be on the film. So he did the score for the film.
Plays a great dick.
Might I say,
Very cool.
He does play a great dick, right?
Awesome.
And what's so
Dave
crazy,
Marcus is awesome in this movie.
and he's one of the nicest guys in the world, which is why he plays such a good asshole.
Of course.
we reference in the film.
You just want to see him get the shit ripped.
Yeah. But he did the score for the whole movie, and he did a hell of a job, man.
Yeah,
He's got some Carpenter moments in there too in the hallway.
Oh yeah.
When he gets when we go to find DB, when he does the
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
I'm still a fan of 45 Grave.
Yeah, I love 45 Grave, dude. Yeah.
Fuck
man.
yeah, Return of the Living Dead. I got
Hell
the
yeah.
shirt on right now. Strang got me
when-
for my birthday.
When
One of my
Pat Smear played with him.
That's one of my favorite songs from any movie. Just
I love it, man.
a hand coming out of the grave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah.
They're a heavy band, man.
I saw that at a drive-in. The first time I ever saw it when I was a sophomore in
Nice.
high school.
That's another great soundtrack. If you're like me and you like punk music in the 80s, that
Fuck
is
yeah.
great punk
Yes.
music soundtrack, man.
The
You know?
best, the fucking best. I got the original on vinyl that I spent
True
an
Sons of
ungodly
Liberty,
amount on.
Yeah. It's got True
That's
Sons
awesome.
of Liberty in there, 45 Grade.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I mean that the
Damned.
Jay thing and the score goes back to again
The
how
Damned,
fortunate we
yeah,
were
fuck
to have Max with it because he brought all these people that Rascal Flatts guy isn't going to do the
No,
score.
we wouldn't have had any of that shit. We would have had a kid.
Movie,
We would have had a kid with a Casio keyboard,
Right.
one finger.
or like a washboard.
I got the perfect idea, guys.
Wait, can we use that?
It'd have been,
Exactly
it would have
correct.
been me. It would have been me and Chris searching
Right.
library music.
Yeah, I'd have been playing the four chords I know on the bass or something like that.
I got an empty bottle, guys.
Yeah, right.
Who's the Cheech and Chong thing? I only know 4 chords.
That's me.
There's our
That guy.
soundtrack.
It's you and Tom Petty.
Do you-
Yeah.
Tom
So
was a
you-
little more successful with it than I am. So
Hey, hashtag shit happens.
Yeah.
So you guys revealed that there's, that you're preparing sequels. Do you have a grand vision? Do you have multiple sequels? Like what? Do you have like a big old?
Is there a
Yeah.
trilogy?
Well,
Yeah, we do have three films planned, but we're also writing a series,
yeah.
Ooh.
So the second
Don't be playing my
a
emotions.
comic book.
the sequel's done. So the second film
sequel
is
Comic book
complete.
too?
We
Well, Chris, you're the money guy. You know that you got to have comics. You need to get video
Yeah.
games, T-shirts, action figures.
video
all-
games.
Well, that doesn't mean all this is going to come to fruition. That's our
And that-
grand plan.
and that doesn't mean I'm the money guy. I'm the
Yeah.
guy who's trying to make the money.
That's what
There you
I
go.
mean.
Yeah.
You want it. You want it. Greenbacks.
Merch.
Ted DiBiase.
I will say what's funny is that so for the film, if those of you who have seen it, and you see the beginning where we talk about the comics of the Manson brothers, people kind of started asking us, man, are you going to do a comic? Are you going to play on this thing?
Can
or
we
graphic
get that
novel or whatever?
comic book? Is it a real comic book?
Yeah, where can I
it's
get
not real.
that? And then we have the second one that you see at some point in time again in the film. And then we had a great artist reach out to us and started doing, some drawings for Mike and I from the film and
And we
some
were
different
like,
stuff. So
holy shit.
yeah, man, just blown away. So, I mean, I think from a conceptual standpoint, we're much more focused on the actual, film part and or the series. But, I mean, everything takes money. We got to
Takes it to
capitalize
make
on
it,
that.
brother.
So
The sequel
Yeah,
was
so-
supposed to be done already.
Yeah, we
it
were
was supposed to
have
be
the
already
finished.
filmed, and then COVID hit. And a long story short, we lost our funding. Long story on that one.
Yeah.
So we
we were like 3 weeks from going to New Orleans to start shooting the second film.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
right
And,
now you'd have
when
one
COVID
coming
hit.
out on top of this one, which,
Yeah.
and I will tell you, and Chris will back me up, and it's because we learned so much on the first one. The second script is and I love the first movie, and it's great in its own way. The second script is a lot better. It's got more horror, it's got more gore, it's got more action, it's got more comedy. It's really good. And
we went with the it's the Reanimator theory of more is more. That's what we decided.
Yes.
When we got to the end, it's like we're just going to do more and more and more and more, whatever we can do.
If 2 is good, 7 is better.
Yeah.
Fucking 13's a lucky number.
Yeah, well, hopefully 13 episodes of a series. That would be,
dude. Yeah, are
So
you
right
guys?
now we're in fundraising mode right now.
yeah.
Right.
So,
That's not a bad thing. A lot of people do the crowdfunding deal, and they get a lot of shit funded through that. I mean,
we've got some really kick-ass stuff coming up. We're actually going to be on the hood of a NASCAR vehicle.
Not us personally.
No, yeah, not Mike.
Ricky Run?
Off the car.
Big Trickle.
Our logo. We're partnering with a gal named Natalie Decker, who's an up and coming female NASCAR circuit gal. And we're going to be, we'll be there. I'll be in the pits actually in Martinsville, Virginia. They're having an all-female, the first ever all-female NASCAR race on Saturday the 30th, before the big circuit race on the 31st. So it's really cool. Super excited about it. I can't wait.
Yeah, we're getting national exposure on it. So.
Yeah, that'll be big exposure for us. So hopefully that helps with fundraising.
That's our biggest thing right now is, look, people like the movie overwhelmingly, which is great. The problem is getting people to know it's there to watch it.
Right.
So that's why we're, shamelessly plugging it as much as we can on social media and telling everybody, hey, if you've seen it and you liked it, please rate and review it on whatever platform you've seen it on, because it helps us, because it's all algorithms, right? So the more
unfortunately.
more people that review it positively, the more they'll put it out there.
The stuff that's cool about that, though, is that, again, going back to the whole fan thing, like knowing that fans of zombie movies and stuff like that like it, that's the best part, because that's who we made it for. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I hope it shows up that we're just trying to make something that's entertaining and people, have a good time watching for an hour and a half. It's not Citizen Kane. It isn't, we're not trying to win any awards.
No.
We're just trying to give people
be socially relevant or nothing like
or anything like that. It's just like, again, like the movies we love. I mean, I'm an Escape from New York guy. I'm a Dusk Till Dawn guy. Like I like to sit down and for an hour and a half, just be removed into somewhere else. That, at the end of the day, I'm like, that was
sometimes you don't want to watch anything that you have to think about. I like watching stuff I have to think about. This is not that movie, right?
I'd like to get on a 3 second soapbox.
You sound like you're a character right now, bro.
If I could get on a 3 second soapbox.
Let's hear it.
I am. Please, Bodie, please. I'm actually fucking exhausted from everything in the news, from everything happening. We're on the tail end, whatever that means, of Corona.
No, sir, I don't like it.
I can't fucking say anything to anyone anywhere without fucking getting after it and going back and forth to some kind of argument. So a lot of times, if I want to be entertained, it's half the reason I watch wrestling now. I wasn't a wrestling guy until I met Wallace and Bodie, and now I'm into it, and I've gotten deep into it because I don't give a shit what that person's political affiliation is, where they spend their money, what do they do for work.
Yeah,
this was nice, man. I put on the movie and I watched it and I had a fucking smile on my face for an hour and a half because it was fucking entertaining. And I wasn't like, oh my God. I was like, I can't believe they said that. I can't believe they did that.
Bodie should have a tally of how much you've been kissing ass tonight, Stratton, you piece of shit.
I've ever. I gotta wash my face later.
Although we did have one guy accuse us of using the pandemic, the Chinese pandemic, and exploiting it. And we were like, dude, we wrote this thing 7 years ago. It was just dumb luck. We have nothing to do with what's going on. It was already filmed. We filmed it in 2019 before any of this shit happened. So if you watch this movie and you read that into it, good luck. But just know that it's just dumb coincidence.
I was gonna ask if you had obstacles because of the COVID, but because if you actually watch the movie and you listen to the way that you guys talk about possible pandemics and stuff, it's kind of obvious that you got lucky enough that you either wrote it or filmed it. I assumed it was filmed beforehand. So
way before.
So So that's honestly, that's why I didn't want to ask, because I didn't want to get into it conversationally.
No, we don't mind talking about it. The truth is, it was just a dumb coincidence.
We were talking about a Chinese pandemic in 2014.
Right. And I'll tell you where it
Familiar.
came from. I'll tell you exactly where
Bodie's
that
like,
came
been there,
from.
done that.
After, I think at the time, there was a load of tainted dog treats that came from China. And that's one of the reasons. And the other reason was, if this is not a spoiler, the pandemic in the movie is caused from a tainted growth hormone vial that from black market China. Well, that was a real thing that was going on in the gyms at the time. There was this Chinese growth hormone that people were like, don't take that shit, and
Right.
so we just put it in there. And, who knew 7 years later there was going to be a big fucking pandemic.
Listen, too, it's almost as simple as when you're writing something, all right, and you're coming up with the baseline idea. It's like, all right, we have to have a reason why they would have to stay inside the arena and not leave. Okay. Well, we need to have zombies then, right? And they have to somehow stop the zombie thing. Well, what's going to start it? Well, I don't know. What would start it in a wrestling locker room? Is it going to be the chicken sandwiches that the guys ate beforehand? No.
Protein bars.
It kind of, not every wrestler in the world does PEDs, but a vast majority of them have. And that was,
You're so funny.
I know, right?
He just killed the business.
I know. Okay. I've been doing it for 20 years.
Yes. Killing the business.
Killing the business. one year at a time. But it's like, okay, well, what's the most obvious thing? Needles, some drug that would get passed around, whatever. So,
it was really a no-brainer thing. It was really a dumb. It's not that clever. This guy. We wish we were that clever.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Right.
And then the guy also said
What's the one fucking negative thing everybody associates with pro wrestling?
Yeah, steroids.
Right. PEDs. That's it. Right.
Exactly. That was an obvious.
And then
we were accused of the wrestling masks that we were trying to make some statement about mask mandates.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, unpucker your asshole already.
Wow.
We're not that
Society
smart.
is shit right now. And
2014, man. 2014.
We're really not that clever.
No.
Don't strain that bicep reaching for that one.
Yeah. Right.
Oh man.
Like Jesus, man.
I do my best to pretend that I'm smart, and I didn't pick up on any of that
Pretty
bullshit.
smart.
I just was, like I said, it was just. It was
If you're not gonna like it, that's fine. But
Yeah, if you're gonna pick something
shit
apart,
that's
you're gonna pick it
not
apart.
fair,
Yeah.
I didn't like the way Skull picked his nose during the okay. Sure.
But going back to your comment, man, like that's the best compliment we could ever get is that somebody just says, I had a smile on my face and I was entertained for 90 minutes and I would tell other people to watch it. That's it. Like those two things, I would tell somebody else to watch this and I was entertained the whole time. Like that's the biggest compliment.
we're gonna spread this motherfucker like a virus.
Hey, like a pandemic.
There you go. Now you're talking.
This would be my last Ask Cassie thing. So I watched
here we
that
go.
last week or the week
Yeah,
before.
right.
That new Nicolas Cage movie, supposed to be batshit crazy. It's the one
Oh,
where
the
he's
ghost pirate thing?
yeah, the ghost
yeah,
killers
I've
of
seen
the
that
Ghost
one, yeah.
Land.
Nick
Yeah.
Cage has a movie every 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Hold up.
right.
I hope so.
Gotta
This
pay
was supposed to be
attention.
really nutty, and I watched it, and it was crazy, but like incoherently crazy. But he had this cool costume where he had these explosives tied to like his forearms, his legs, his nut, each one of his nuts, and it like ties into it. If he doesn't do what he's supposed to, thing explodes. They actually blow up one of his balls. Anyways,
Isn't it a Japanese production?
yes, Japanese
That's why it's
director.
incoherent.
Yeah. And so when I watched it, I was like, I didn't really like the movie, but that costume is like really cool. It's like a gimp outfit, but with
I
explosives.
want to watch it. I haven't seen
And,
it. That looks cool.
But now, like after watching this, I was like, well, each one of your outfits, the skull shit, the Chicago flag, like all that stuff, like those are cool costumes. The merchandising for t-shirts, like I'm gonna buy a fucking t-shirt. If you guys make a DB Sweeney promotion poster, like in that one scene, like
I
that
think he's
fucking
got
shit's
that
cool.
hanging in his garage right
It's
now.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all that stuff, it's just like to say, like the last thing I wanted to say was thank you for fucking making this movie, man. I'll promote it. I'll be wearing t-shirts. I'll be doing this shit. And being
Thank you.
three
Yeah.
guys with our own aspirations, like middle-aged men trying to, I'm not knocking your guys' age. You both look like young men
old.
full of
We are
piss and
old.
vinegar,
We're
but
both 52.
I'm not
Yeah,
much
I'll be
younger.
40 next year.
Never
But
too
like-
late, man. Never
we
too late.
but we have aspirations too. And honestly, like some of the stuff, some of the shit you guys did, like it was like tapping into my brain. And when hearing about like the next one, which I know a little bit about because I watched it, all that shit's exciting and it's motivational. So if somebody else wants to make shit and entertain, like, fuck, dude, good job, man.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it very much. That
real here for
means a lot.
minute. Yeah, it means a lot. But I'm going to be completely real. Whatever aspirations you have, and not just talking to you guys, talking to whoever listening here. If you have a dream, you should dream the biggest dream that you can dream, and then work your fucking ass off to make it happen. Dream. Yeah, and surround yourself with people that believe in you, that are going to
positive people,
no matter what. And people always quit when they're like that close to making it happen. I mean, look, we're 52 years old. We made this thing on the eve of our 50th birthday. We wrapped filming, and they told us when we wrote it, "You guys will never make this thing. You'll never make it. You're too old. You're not that
tears it."
Hey, those
In
people
your
that
face,
said that,
right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And we're just getting warmed up.
Spin.
We're just getting warmed up.
Yep. Up your butt, Joe Boo.
So
You know,
don't quit.
I
Right.
say all the time that we got really lucky with the
did.
Max thing, you know. But the reality of it is, though, and way better men than me have made this comment. But the harder you work, the luckier you get. You know what I mean? It's luck is the convergence of opportunity and effort.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it doesn't mean it's going to happen or that anything good's going to happen. But a lot more lucky stuff tends to happen when you don't give up. You know, and that's
There were plenty of times where he and I were dead in the water. In fact, on the sequel, we're dead in the water. Right now, we're dead in the water. But guess what? It's gonna fucking happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna fucking happen.
So hey, man, that's a good point. Where the fuck can everybody watch and download and buy and rent this movie?
You can go to Amazon, Vudu, any of your local cable, Xfinity, Cox. I don't like to talk about Cox that much, but Mike brings it up all the time.
Yeah.
So any DirecTV,
Google
Dish
Play,
Network.
YouTube,
Yep, anything like
I use Redbox.
Redbox,
You can rent or buy on Redbox. Yep.
IMDb.
Yes.
So any of those pay-per-go platforms streaming, please watch it. If you watch it, please share it with your friends. If you like it, please tell everybody and give us a good review. And if you didn't like it, don't fucking say anything.
Yeah.
Keep your fucking mouth shut.
And again, we'll be doing the NASCAR event on October 30th, so Halloween weekend.
Cool.
We'll be in Martinsville, Virginia. Mike and I will be. I'm sure this 24-year-old race car girl is really excited to do a photo shoot with two 52-year-old guys.
old men.
Oh yeah.
Gotta be totally.
Hey
stoked
man,
about that.
the women these days are fucking weird. You never know.
Also,
feel bad for her.
Yeah. Also,
we'll
hit us on. I was going to say, hit us on Instagram at Margetis, at Real Mike Carey, and we have at Manson Brothers Movie. And visit our website, mansonbrothers.com, for cool merchandise.
And one more. November 11th through the 14th, we'll be at the Rome Film Festival. And that's not Rome, Italy, although there is one at the same time that is connected with it.
Rome,
Georgia. The Rome International Film Festival, just outside of Atlanta. So come see us in Atlanta.
They're like, do you guys want to go to the Rome International Film Festival? We're like, fuck, let me check our passports. They're like, oh, wait a minute.
Georgia.
Hold on.
Oh,
It actually is a very good festival, and
It is.
we're
It's a
super
big
excited to be
honor.
in it. Yeah, it's a really big honor. So really excited to do that too. And we'll keep you posted with everything else that's going on.
and if it doesn't work, you can catch us at your local intersection wearing sandwich boards. It says, you can kick
that's the
nuts
other
for
thing.
money.
If you see us out there with a cardboard sign, throw some money in, man, because like this has been a long
Hell
journey.
yeah.
Doing the best we can here.
Please do.
Here's an Aladdin's castle token.
Are those still exist?
Tokens. I will take those tokens.
Fuck yeah, brother. Relive my childhood.
Right, dude? Don't gotta say that twice to me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah,
You guys are awesome, man. You guys
So
rule.
great.
You-
and hey,
fuck
we
yeah.
do want to come back and talk more wrestling for sure.
Dude, you guys
Please.
will be back. November sounds like a good time to me. We'll
Yes,
bring you
do it.
guys back and talk more wrestling, and hopefully my internet doesn't freak out.
I've got one more shameless plug.
Yes.
Do it.
Mid-November on the Me Network, we will be having clips of the film on Svengoolie. So,
Oh, yes! Fucking Rich Co's, yes!
Best.
Oh, yeah.
we'll be on there. So,
That's
He's the
badass.
best.
yeah, that's like one of the lifetime highlights right there, man. You get on
Oh, yeah.
Svengoolie.
That's off the bucket list.
No, that's it, baby.
All right.
Chris, Mike, thank you guys so much for fucking coming on and talking about the film. Everybody, make sure you check it out, because if you don't, you're fucking missing out. And you know, what the fuck are you doing with yourselves? This is a great fucking zombie wrestling comedic horror action flick that you all need to be a part of and involved with by watching and spreading the word, spreading the gospel of the motherfucking Manson brothers, because they deserve it. They worked hard for it. And I believe, as well as Bodie and Sprent believes, anybody that works hard for something, they deserve all the credit they get, as long as it's good. And fortunately, it's really good for you guys. We're not feeding you a line of bullshit. You're going to fucking love it. You're going to watch it and be like, oh my God, the Juice fucking boys were right about this shit. It changed my life. Anyways, make sure you hit Mike and Chris up and follow them on all socials. What'd you guys say it was mansonbrothers.com?
Mansonbrothers.com. Yep. At Manson Brothers Movie. At C. Margetis.
Hit them all up.
At Real Mike.
Make sure you're.
Yep.
Yes, fuck the real, the one and only. Yeah. Oh,
and we will answer you back.
Excellent.
So that's how hard up we are. No, I'm just kidding. But we will.
That's how hard on they are. I really sincerely appreciate you guys coming on. A bunch of good brothers. Everybody watching right now on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe. Share this fucking shit with your friends. If you're listening out there in podcast land, make sure you download, rate, and review, and do the same thing. Share with all your friends. Spread the good word of them Juice boys, because we're delivering the goods on a consistent motherfucking basis. And hit up prowrestlingtees.com/JPWtees and buy all 3 of our fucking shirt designs, because they all sick. They all killer. And everybody, have a great fucking month of October. We'll be back next week with some more fucking action for that ass. Until next time, we got some for the Manson brothers we like to do. And it goes like this. Wet 'em up. Wet 'em up. Wet 'em up. I'm so fucking wet for the Manson brothers and the midnight fucking zombie massacre. It's insane. Watch it right now.
You gonna do sex to me? Did you like that video? If so, be sure to hit like and subscribe and check out more killer content from your boys at Juice Pro Wrestling. Whoa, yeah!